About Morley-Minto reforms. Morley-Minto reforms, that is reforms of 1909. So in this lesson we are going to study about the background of this Morley-Minto reforms, then provisions of the Morley-Minto reforms, and then we will assess what was this Morley-Minto reforms. So Indian National Congress demanded home rule for the first time in 1906, that we know, right? So Gopal Krishna Gokhale met Morley in England to emphasize the need for reforms. So Shimla deputation, a group of elite Muslims led by Aga Khan, met Lord Minto in 1906 and placed their demands for a separate electorate for the Muslims. So remember, the Muslim League was also formed in 1906. So the Shimla deputation also met Lord Minto at Shimla in 1906, which was led by Aga Khan, and they also put forward their demand of a separate electorate for the Muslims. Okay, so John Morley was a member of the Liberal government and he wanted to make positive changes in the India's governance. So then came the Morley-Minto reforms. Okay, so under these reforms, the legislative councils at the center and the provinces increased in size. Now the size was increased of legislative councils at the center and provinces. Okay, and central legislative council from 16 to became 60. So earlier the size was 16, now it became 60. Then legislative councils of Bengal, Madras, Bombay and United Provinces became 50 members each, and legislative councils of Punjab, Burma and Assam became 30 members each. So we see from this that it was a clear-cut indication that the size of the legislative councils in center as well as provinces was increased. So the legislative councils at the center and the provinces were to have 4 categories of members as follows. So there were 4 categories of members in the central as well as provinces, the assemblies. Okay, so one category was ex officio members, and they were governor generals and members of the executive council. Okay, so ex officio members were governor general and the members of executive council. Then nominated official members, so there were nominated official members also in the council. And who were these nominated official members? These were government officials who were nominated by governor general himself. So first one was ex officio members, second was nominated official members which were appointed by governor general himself. Okay, then were nominated non-official members. So nominated by the governor general but were not government officials. See, so governor general had a upper hand in this council. In first place, the ex officio members were from was the governor general and his members from the executive council. Then nominated official members also were appointed by governor general, those were government officials. Then thirdly, the nominated non-official members were also appointed by governor general. Okay, and then elected members were elected by different category of Indians. So we can see clearly that the majority of them were nominated, so elected members were very few. So the elected members were elected indirectly. There were no direct elections to the councils according to the Morley-Minto reforms of 1909. So elected members were elected indirectly. So the local bodies elected an electoral college who would elect members of the provincial legislative councils, and these members would in turn elect the members of the central legislative council. Do you understand? So first the local bodies will elect an electorate college who would elect members of the provincial legislative councils, and then again the members of the legislative council would in turn elect the members of central legislative council. So this was clearly a indirect process of election. So the elected members were from the local bodies, the chambers of commerce, landlords, universities, traders communities and Muslims. So in the provincial councils, non-official members were in a majority. In the provincial council, non-official members were in a majority. However, since some of the non-official members were nominated, in total a non-elected majority was there. So as we have seen that non-elected majority was there because a lot of the members were appointed directly by the Governor General. So Indians were given membership to the Imperial Legislative Council for the first time. Okay. So Indians got the membership of the Imperial Legislative Council for the first time by Morley-Minto reforms of 1909. Remember this. This is very important. This may be a question in our exam. So it introduced a separate electorate for the Muslims. Remember, this is also important. Separate electorate for the Muslims in 1909 under Morley-Minto reforms. And some constituencies were, so according to this separate electorates, what was this separate electorates? Some constituencies were earmarked for Muslims and only Muslims could vote their representatives. So the constituencies were reserved for Muslims and only Muslims would vote to the Muslim candidate. So the members could discuss the budget and move resolutions according to the Morley-Minto reforms of 1909. They could discuss the budget and move resolutions, and they could also discuss matters of public interest. Okay, but they did not have the right to vote on budget. No right to vote on budget. Okay, they could also ask supplementary questions. Okay, so no discussion on foreign policy or on relations with the princely states were permitted in the councils. Remember this thing. So this is very important. You can pause the lesson, you can note down in your copy, try to memorize this thing, and you can make short notes also from the lesson. So Lord Minto appointed on much persuasion by Morley Satyendra P. Sinha as the first Indian member of the Viceroy's Executive Council. So Satyendra P. Sinha was appointed by Lord Minto to Viceroy's Executive Council. So 2 Indians were nominated to the Council of the Secretary of State for Indian Affairs. Okay, so here is the image of Satyendra P. Sinha, who was appointed to the Viceroy's Executive Council. So what did this whole Morley-Minto reforms meant? So the act introduced communal representation in Indian politics. Now this was a clear-cut divide and rule policy because Muslims were given different, that means separate electorate in which only Muslim candidate will be there and only Muslims will vote to that Muslim candidate. So this was intended to stem the growing tide of nationalism in the country by dividing the people on communal lines. Okay, so the culmination of this step was seen in the partition of the country along religious lines. The effects of differential treatment of different religious groups can be seen to this day, isn't it? Because the seeds which were sown by the Britishers of divide and rule still we can see in the Indian society. So the act did nothing to grant colonial self-government, which was the Congress demand. And the act did increase Indian participation in the legislative councils, especially at the provincial levels. But still this was not a considerable thing to be mentioned, or not a thing which was worthy to be seen as a measure for the self-government, which was a demand put forward by Congress. This was just mere a carrot, and Morley-Minto reforms did not give anything much considerable, but it was successful in dividing the Indian society on religious lines, that is through the separate electorates for the Muslims. Okay, so that's all about the Muslim reforms. In our next lesson, we will study about the nationalist response to World War First. Okay.